I'm here at Bicester Village in the heart of Oxfordshire, and my shopping experience has been so unique, with over 150 fashion and lifestyle boutiques to choose from.
These gold ones with the black dot, perfect.
I've picked up these beautiful earrings from Astrid & Mew.
Oh, Jill Sander, Temple of Style.
And this stunning shirt from Jill Sander.
So classic and just would never go out of style.
Which both had up to 40% off the original retail price. Such great savings. And did I mention it's so easy to get to for a day out? It's only an hour on the train, direct from London.
Oh, that is gorgeous.
To enter a prize draw to win £500 worth of shopping at Bicester Village, follow the link in the description. T's and C's apply.
I think we can safely say, with all the savings I've made, mission accomplished.
Let's get on to your failures. Your first failure is failure to be a farmer's wife.
Yes, very, very important. I don't know why you're laughing.
Well, first of all, I find it intriguing that it's being a farmer's wife rather than being a farmer.
Yeah. Well, again, this was, can I first say, let me just...
Yes.
Can I defend myself?
Absolutely. No. All your internalised misogyny.
Yes, exactly. This was when I was, you know, the question, what did you want to be when you were younger? I love that question because I think it's a great portal to what are you missing out on now? Because I think our younger selves often know the answer, what we want to be. And so if we're tired or in a midlife crisis or lacking joy in our life, go back to that question and think, actually, is there anything in that? So one of the things I wanted to be was a comedian. The other thing I wanted to be was win Wimbledon. And I also wanted to be a farmer's wife. So I obviously also was very wise when I was young and thinking, I know that farming is one of the hardest industries and jobs out there. So I won't be the farmer. I'll be the farmer's wife. To me, what that meant was collecting the eggs from the chickens. So basically, it's that I wanted chickens. Mm-hmm. And I think I did visualise myself in a pinny in a country farm cottage, but I was never doing any cooking.
Did you listen to the Archers?
No, never listened to the Archers. But I had a sheepdog. There was a sheepdog involved. Oh. Yeah, so I probably did not the harvesting and the serious sort of tractor business.
Or the waking up early.
Or the waking up early or the accounts or any of that. I just did the sort of fun sheepdog. There were probably goats. Small pigs that don't ever turn into big pigs. Piglets, I believe they're called. So you can see I was a natural. But I wanted the landscape. I think I did want to drive a Land Rover. All those fun sort of...
Quad bikes.
They're not fun. They're terrifying.
Okay, sorry.
Quad bikes? No. Okay. No, it has to be more like a sort of glorified golf buggy.
Okay.
Something like that.
I learned to drive on a tractor and I have to say it was unbelievably fun.
Do you know, one of my dreams is to... I'm going to segue now, but as well as thinking what you want to do as your younger self, another portal to joy and finding who you are, which I talk about in my book, is writing down your dreams. Like a stream of consciousness of 100 dreams. You could do it over 3 days if you want. One of mine that popped up there, and I thought, that is actually true. I want to drive a tractor with a straw hat.
I think that's eminently possible, Miranda.
I think it is.
Yes.
So it's obviously... So I don't know quite what the farmer's wife and the tractor with a straw hat thing is wanting to harness, but it's something to do with space, less people, animals over humans... I think something about the coziness.
Yes.
/ adventure.
Freedom,
which is one of my highest values.
Interesting.
Freedom and adventure.
Talk to me more about the delight of solitude, which I think comes up when you're talking about that and comes up in your book too. Because, I mean, I can relate to this as well, that curious mishmash of introversion and extroversion, because you're clearly a very capable and talented performer.
Thank you very much.
You put your face out there and your name, and it's sort of a version of you.
Yeah, I can do that.
You can do that.
I've looked at camera twice now.
You're such a pro.
I know, it's all coming back.
You're breaking down the fourth wall everywhere you go. And I'm here for it.
I'm a maverick. Do carry on.
But I think I'm getting from you that you are actually more introverted than you ever allowed yourself to be. Would that be fair?
Well, first ever knew that I was. Where did that come? Knew? Ever knew that I was? No, I didn't realise I was an introvert. See, that's one of the things that I think the world, I don't know now, but it did when I was growing up. I don't know if you relate to this, although you are younger than I. But it was still maybe pre-Susan Cain's book Quiet coming out.
Amazing book.
That it was still better to get ahead. Again, I'm putting that in inverted commas. What does that mean? If you are extroverted, loud, out there, positive, upbeat, wise, clever. And where was the celebration or the acceptance or the encouragement of the shyer child who might be the contemplative and the still one and needs to work with no music in the background and all the things that I've learned about myself, that I was in a world that was too noisy for me. And because I didn't know I was introverted, because I tried to be an extrovert, because that's what I was taught culturally. And then when I realised it, probably only 10 years ago, this weight just lifted off. I thought, oh, of course. So one of the reasons to say I'm a failed farmer's wife is I think because I was forced into an urban environment that was just too much for my nervous system ultimately.
Yeah.
So, but actually I think I could do that urban environment now with the knowledge of being an introvert and a highly sensitive person. If I took the time for stillness, I need a day a week to not speak. That's kind of one of my little rules. I like to socialise in small groups very intentionally. I get exhausted by a big night out. But all that stuff as a 20-something at university or as a teenager, you don't feel that that's allowed. Or I didn't.
No.
And so I forced to become another way and become also very productive, which I love, is definitely part of me, but not without the degree of stillness and contemplation and peace and space and countryside that I need. And so it's just so freeing to now, and this is why I'm so passionate about my book and why I wrote it, is just if the 20-something me could read this and go, do you want to have a little think about whether actually you are an introvert? How much it would have helped. And I'm sure one of the reasons why I got so fatigued, my immune system got funky, was because I was trying to be something that I was not. So yeah, I think A Farmer's Wife was a way to escape from the noise.
I completely get all of that because I always knew I wanted to be a writer. And I thought, well, to get into writing, I've got to be a journalist first. So I went into journalism, and I am an introvert, but I was pitched headlong into this world where I had to bowl up to people at parties. I was on the diary column at the Evening Standard and ask famous people questions. And it was so nerve-wracking.
And exhausting.
And this is the thing that you identify. So exhausting. And
hang on, I'm going to do a burp.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
That'll be a social media clip.
That's just classic. Down the line again. Apologies for the burp. Slightly sweaty upper lips because we had tea. And you were in the middle of talking about you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I didn't want it to be about you.
Yeah, which is totally fair enough, and it shouldn't be.
You're interviewing me. Who do you think you are, Elizabeth Day?
But it relates to what you're
carry
saying.
on.
So
it's fascinating.
It's absolutely that exhaustion, because I think I became a sort of socially conditioned, like a high-functioning introvert who could assume the mantle of extroversion, but it always came at a cost of energy.
Yes.
And now I'm at a stage in my life, which is exactly the stage that you write about in the book, where I don't know if I want to see anyone.
Well, exactly.
But how do you manage that? Because how do you manage friendships?
Very, very intentionally. So I trust that they're there if I don't see them for 2 years. B, I don't think you can have 100 really, really close friends. That's exhausting in itself, particularly I think even my very extroverted friends would say that's not really that possible. And for me, it's how I've sort of really thought, okay, how do I like socialising? Because I hate dinner parties. I hate formal. So I think actually the favourite way for me, as long as my friends are happy to socialise, is things like round a campfire or getting people over to What's Strictly and chatting for an hour and a half before and throughout. I don't like small talk. If people want to share something with me or want to ask something, fine. So it's about intentionality for me and trusting they're there, because I think I did a lot of I must keep up, I must see her, must see him, must do that, for fear that that was the good and nice thing to do and that they won't be there if I don't. But now I have full trust that they're there, that they'll tell me if they need to see me. And then the intentional way to gather, if I may be so.
Did you lose friends over your illness, over that protracted period of not being able to keep up?
Well, amazingly, now I'm reconnecting. Now I have the health to reconnect, and I realise I didn't lose them, but they lost me completely because I had no choice but to isolate. I was shielding before the word shielding existed, because even if I got a cold when I was working, then that would be me out for 6 to 8 weeks, and I wouldn't know why. So I had to be very careful who I was around. I couldn't work and socialise. So there was many years, even before illness, where I wasn't really available for them. So they definitely lost me. And then one of the things I mentioned in the book that I found, didn't realise I found so difficult, was asking for help. So then when I wasn't practiced at that. So that then when I became ill, I didn't know how to say help, particularly when you don't have a diagnosis. And I was so exhausted, I just didn't want to see anyone. So I've got amazing friends because they did stick around, and I'm reconnecting with them now, and it's like we haven't had 10 years apart, and that's a sign of good friendship.
One of your best friends during this time was Peggy, your beloved dog.
Oh, Peggy.
And I wanted to talk about Peggy because it relates to this idyllic existence as a farmer's wife, because so much of it is about being surrounded by animals instead of humans.
Well, I think us introverts, and definitely, I keep saying this word, highly sensitive people. Have you come across that term?
Yes.
HSP?
Yes.
So if you haven't, look it up. Because if you are one, it makes a huge difference how to manage energy in life. But and we make the best people, obviously.
100%.
Obviously. What do you ask me? Oh, so we are very attuned with animals. We love animals. We love that calm, simple energy, because basically, I'll stop saying we. I can only speak for myself. I think what I realise in a serious matter about animals is that the connection I love most is just sitting in a room with someone and you don't have to speak.
Yes.
And that's you feel utterly loved, utterly accepted, and you have to make no effort. You're just you. And that's what a dog gives you. I mean, obviously it's what lots of animals give you, but we tend to don't have pet llamas.
I have a cat and he gives me that.
Cat?
Yeah.
Fine. Exactly. I used to have a cat.
All right, it's not a competition.
No, until I realised I was mildly allergic to them.
Oh no.
I couldn't understand why I kept sort of coughing. It took me about 20 years. Anyway, but that's exactly cats and dogs. You just look at them and it makes you want to cry. You just feel you get in at the end of the day. I mean, even if I had somebody and wasn't single, I think I would have gone straight to the dog for that love first. So unconditional, present. They're also completely present. And I think that's what everybody needs, that non-judgmental presence, loving presence, but even more so as an introvert and highly sensitive person.
Do you have pets now?
I do. So Peggy died early, oh gosh, I can't remember which year, but during the pandemic, which was the worst time, because then I was completely alone. And that led to, I mean, it's all in the book what I ended up learning, but gosh, the kind of hefty blessing in disguise of having to dig deep without Peggy. So it was about just under a year later that I got Patty. A friend happened to I love the way random things happen. A friend happened to text me and said, "Isn't it time you get a new dog?" This is about 10 months in. And I said, "Yes, but I'm so exhausted. Where do I begin looking? I don't know what breed." And as we were texting, she said, "Look at this link. I found this thing called a Pouchon, and it's in Portsmouth, which was near my parents where I was staying during the pandemic. And it was this little fluffy sort of sandy ball of poodly fur, hypoallergenic, thank you." And I went, "Well, that's it, yeah." And my sister went down and had a look at now Patty, the Pouchon from Portsmouth. 6 weeks later, she was in my arms, this tiny ball of fluff. So I now have Patty.
Is a Pouchon a poodle and a Bichon Frise?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So
amazing.
Peggy was a Bichon Frise Shih Tzu, or a shitty Frise as I called her. And now I've got a Pouchon. So there's a little theme there. But yeah, but it's interesting how I don't need Patty in quite the same way as I needed Peggy, which means I'm much more generally connected in real life.
And you've got married.
And because I have a husband. to look into his adoring eyes. It's early days. It's still early days.
Which I have to say is such a beautiful part of the book. And you plot it so perfectly.
Oh, coming from you, that means a lot.
Oh,
Thanks.
You saying coming from me means a lot to me. Thank
the
you.
loop of love
I know.
just keeps on going.
It's so wonderful. And I don't want to ruin anything for the reader because you reveal at the end something about how you met.
Yes.
But just tell us about that, because you always had a feeling, didn't you, that you were going to get married at 51?
Yeah. Yeah, so
how
weird.
Bizarre.
So maybe I will be a farmer's wife. He's not a farmer, so I can't be. Otherwise, I have to get. Oh, that's all gone wrong. So yeah, I remember that was in my sort of 20s, and I remember when everyone was sort of all my girlfriends was talking about marriage and sort of wanting the big wedding and the white dress and all that, and I was just like, I don't relate to any of you. I just wasn't interested at all. I don't know why. I don't know whether because I had this interest in comedy, whatever. And I remember always thinking, I think the perfect time to get married would be at 51, because by then you'd want to sort of inject some new energy and excitement into life. All your friends would be 20, 30 years into marriage and you'd be like, yay, I'm starting again. You'd know who you were. It just felt right for me.
Did you know you didn't want children?
No, it just sort of never came. I think I was focused in my 20s and early 30s thinking, I'm just going to try this comedy thing. I mean, obviously it's not going to happen. Knew I wasn't interested in the white dress and getting married, unless it was to a farmer, obviously.
Yeah.
If I'd randomly met the farmer. So I just was focused on, well, let's just live in London, see what happens with the comedy thing. And then it took off.
I hope you enjoyed that video. Be sure to check out the full episode of How to Fail wherever you get your podcasts. And also make sure you're following us on social media for all the latest updates.